Hello and welcome to Big Deal. Renewable energy sector is back in the limelight as the clean green theme really gains momentum across the globe for two primary reasons. It's the sector of the future and here to stay, as well as the ESG funds focusing on environmental, social, as well as the corporate governance aspects are chasing the space, attaching richer valuations to the companies. Now, is this the time for the Indian big boys who made a feeble attempt, remember, at listing a couple of years back to get back on the roadshows? And who are these investors chasing this emerging space? To deep dive into the refueled renewable sector, I have with me Sumant Sinha, the CMD of the largest renewable energy company in India, Renew Power. And from the deal maker side, I have Suraj Krishnaswamy of Axis Capital. Gentlemen, so good to have you on CNBC TV 18. And here we'll first focus on Renew Power and its plans going forward. And in the second half, we are going to focus on the Teal Street action. So you'll have to wait for all those discussions. Sumant Sinha, coming to you first, and let's address the most important aspect that the street wants to know. Are you going to give another shot to the IPO, and is it going to be in India or as global direct listing or overseas listing as many companies have been toying with?
Yeah, hi Nisha. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Look, you're absolutely right that investor demand globally for renewables is certainly picked up quite substantially over the last 6 to 9 months. There is clearly a very concerted move towards allocating more funds towards, as you said, the ESG sector. Clearly, renewables falls, squarely within that. So there is a lot of appetite, there is a lot of interest, and therefore, I think for a company like ours, whose eventual destination is at some point going to be a listing, this is certainly a good time to look at the markets to see, in fact, whether it makes sense for us to go to the markets. Now, the second question you raised was, should we then look at an overseas listing or an India listing? I know there are three real possibilities right now. Obviously, one is to list in India. The second is to do a direct listing, which, as you know, the government has been working on for a considerable period of time. And the third is actually do an offshore listing directly as well. And we're really evaluating all options at this point in time. Clearly, we're going to be driven by where investor demand will be strongest, not just in the near term, but in the longer term. And certainly, at an initial level, it tends to point towards, a listing perhaps overseas. But it's not something that we've taken a definitive call on. But certainly, the appetite and the interest that we are seeing from overseas investors to invest in these, in our kinds of companies has grown very sizably. And that will certainly factor into our decision making on which final listing venue to go for.
Of course, Sumant, and in times like this, if you're getting equity capital, that is really gold for a capital-intensive sector like yours. But having known you for many years, when you really sowed the seeds of Renew Power, having worked at Suzlon, and the 1,000 crore check that Goldman Sachs gave you 10 years back, to now looking at a much higher valuation of a few $1 billion in terms of IPO. Sumant Sinha, I want to ask you one aspect. As far as global listing is concerned, would you be waiting for the Indian norms? Because we are yet to see the framework and it may just take some time. Would you also be restructuring and externalizing the company if these particular rules don't come too quickly?
Yeah, Nisha, look, you're absolutely right. Ours has been a pretty incredible journey from the time that we started. It's been a great ride. It's also been a real attempt at building a company. And, at the time that we started, you had the largest renewable energy companies were in the maybe 100, 200 megawatt category or size. Today, we're talking about multiple thousands of megawatts in size. And, our company itself is now, between our contracted and commissioned capacity, is in excess of 10 gigawatts. So we've really grown as a company and as a sector. Now, to answer your question about which location we might look at from the point of view of listing and so on. So that is something that we are giving a lot of thought to at this point in time. As I said earlier, we haven't yet taken any final call. As far as the issue about direct listing is concerned, the government is clearly working on it very diligently. But it's a very complex topic because there are many significant issues involved with respect to rules around taxes and FEMA and so on. So unless there is full clarity on all of those issues, it's very hard to think about doing a direct listing. And so far, I don't think we've got to the point yet where that clarity has emerged fully. And so it's a question of timing. Therefore, from our standpoint, if we want to go earlier, then perhaps externalizing and then doing an offshore listing might be a better solution. On the other hand, if we're able to get comfort from the government that these rules might change faster, then it is something that we might consider even doing a direct listing from India. So as I said, we are in early stages of looking at all of these things.
Yes.
But it's certainly heartening to know that the government is trying to encourage companies to do direct listings from India as well. I think that's certainly a step in the right direction.
That's a game changer.
For final rules to come in.
Definitely a game changer, and it's going to open a lot of opportunities for many Indian companies to access that large pool of capital sitting overseas, Sumant. But I also appreciate you giving a lot more clarity on your plans for fundraising going forward. But it all depends on the valuation, and you yourself did mention about the window of opportunity as well, because we all know that these valuations have been unheard of. There is a little bit of euphoria in the sector, and last time around when Sembcorp as well as Renew Power had made an attempt to really go for a listing, you were looking at a 10x EBITDA for the valuation, the same level at which you had bought Ostro, but market was not ready to give that kind of a valuation. Sumant, I remember clearly at that time. Now, do you think that Azure trading at those similar levels overseas gives you a lot more hope? And what do you think is going to really drive the kind of euphoria and the investor interest that is seen right now?
Well, Nisha, you packed in a lot of different questions into that one question. So let me try to unpack it a little bit. Firstly, we did not acquire Ostro at a 10x EBITDA multiple. So let me just clarify that it was at a multiple that was significantly less than that. Last time when we were trying to do our own listing, I don't think that EV EBITDA multiple is perhaps the primary factor that people look at. Most investors tend to do DCF analysis as well. And if anything, the EV EBITDA multiple is just a triangulation that they do in addition to that. At least that's the sense that we've got. This time, what multiples would we look at? Really depends. As I said, we haven't yet got to the market or had specific conversations with investors to be able to, for me to be able to give you a good sense of that. Certainly, Azure is trading at a good multiple right now. But also, as you know, it's gone up in the last 6 months quite substantially. The second thing is, it's not a very liquid stock, so I don't know to what extent we can use that as a benchmark. Certainly, we would, I think, look at it clearly, and investors will also look at it. And to the extent that it is, in fact, trading at higher valuations, that's certainly a positive for us.
All right.
Having said that, an IPO, doesn't happen overnight, doesn't happen instantaneously, as you well know. It takes many months of preparation, filing, etc. And so, doing an IPO is not a decision that you take based on what is happening in the markets right now, but you have to look at what might happen to markets 5 or 6 months or 7 months down the road.
Yes.
And that's a little bit harder to forecast.
Right.
And so you have to really look at issues around how sustainable is the market likely to be, what are the structural factors that might be propping the market up,
Sure.
and what may happen over a 4 to 6 month period of time
All right.
that may impact the market. So you have to look at all of those factors and then take a determination about
So analysis of all the factors, and there are many moving parts, Sumant Sinha, and as per my little experience, generally a parallel process is run on various fronts and different ways of fundraising, and then you choose one as it suits and as per the approvals come in. So the other aspect is that you have a lot of marquee investors with huge amount of stake in Renew Power. You have Goldman Sachs, which is looking for an exit for a while, and there are also RDR, JRE had also come in, and some of the other infrastructure-based sovereign wealth funds. Now, looking at this aspect, do you think that selling stake to some of the private equity funds would really make sense to give an eventual exit to Goldman Sachs? Is that also something that you're looking at?
As we look at our capital raising over the next several months, whether we get in some investors before the IPO, should we choose to go down that path, I think is something that we would definitely consider doing. I think you're right that Goldman has been our anchor investor for a few years. And certainly it would make sense for not just them, but anybody else who needs to get liquidity to take some money off the table. Now, of course, the IPO is the best way of doing that because that then allows people to exit whenever they feel is the appropriate time for them. There's a liquid currency and so on. Should we look for private investors before that? Look, I think as you rightly observed in the beginning of this call, we're in a capital intensive sector. And so as a company, it's very prudent for us to keep exploring all fundraising options at all points in time. I think if I just see the growth opportunities in front of us, the government's plans and so on, we can almost raise any amount of capital and invest it very profitably into our sector.
So Sumant, as I mentioned earlier, that you will keep all the options open because right now the investors are hot on the sector. But very quickly on the growth drivers that the investors may be really betting on, Sumant. The key factors that are your biggest pitch points to the investors.
Look, I think there are several of them. Number one, a conversation that we used to have maybe a couple of years ago, is renewables more expensive? Does it have to be subsidized? That's a question that has totally gone out of the window. It's no longer a factor. Everybody knows that renewables is the cheapest form of electricity, right? And India is going to be a growing market. So as India grows and as our demand for power grows, how are DISCOMs going to prioritize the purchase of power? They're naturally going to go to the cheapest source first. And that cheapest source is in fact renewable energy. And so when you look at our power sector, over the next 10 to 12 years, there's going to be a total flip.
Sure. Sumant, since we have very little time, I want to know about your company rather than the sector.
Okay.
So what is your strategy going to be? See, renewable is a vast space now. Are you going to focus on solar more, wind more? What is it that you're going to more, focus on? And the second aspect I want to know, round the clock, you won one bid. Where is that strategy going? Is rooftop solar something that you may want to consider? Give us very briefly the highlight of your strategy.
Sure. So you actually answered the question within your question. The reality is that, the next challenge for renewables is going to be intermittency management, especially as renewables becomes a much bigger part of the overall power sector. That is going to become an issue that is going to be more important. Yes. And so therefore, intermittency management through round-the-clock power solutions, storage-based solutions, I think that is one direction that we're definitely going to go down as a sector and therefore us as a company as well. Two, we're going to see more of solar than wind in the future. That is also very clear, just given the fact that solar is cheaper and meets daytime requirements and has less volatility. And number three, I think there is also going to be more work to be done in the value chain because, with the government's drive to focus on manufacturing with Atmanirbhar Bharat and so on, there is clearly going to be an opportunity to get into the manufacturing side of the business as well. So that's something we'll certainly examine. And I think as you look at the other side, which is that the DISCOM side or the distribution side, that is an area that is certainly also going to be looked at. The government is trying to privatize that. So there could be opportunities in that side as well. So those are things that we're going to examine as we go.
So state DISCOMs and the health of that and your dependence on some of the sector, some of the states which are more critical and difficult to handle at this point, and there have been a lot of controversies in the past about that. Is that the biggest risk weightage that the investors are pointing out?
No, you're absolutely right, Nisha. That, in fact, is the single biggest issue right now. The power sector, in fact, suffers from the lack of quality and financial health of the distribution utilities. Keep in mind that that's where money enters the sector from the consumers. And if that part of the value chain is not working smoothly, then it has an impact on everybody else in the back end of the value chain. And so, therefore, that area certainly critically needs to be fixed. I know the government is working on it, but it needs to work faster. And therefore, when you look at financing issues, certainly investors charge you a premium for providing capital where the DISCOMs are the off-takers. And that therefore leads to higher tariffs, which eventually the DISCOMs only have to pay.
Sure.
So in fact, if you could address that problem, the whole tariff could actually come down to a reasonable extent because of, addressing that particular problem.
All right. And you're also writing a book, given your huge experience in this sector. Very quickly, a synopsis of that and a teaser for our viewers who would like to read it.
Thank you, Nisha, for giving me the opportunity to put in a plug. Look, the book is called Fossil Free. It talks about the energy transition that we're in the midst of right now. We've had a couple of energy transitions in our history in the past. This one is going from fossil fuels to clean energy. And that is absolutely essential, just given all the climate change imperatives that we're facing. and we as a country are facing in terms of our demand requirements, in terms of power growth and so on.
Sure.
So I think that is really what the book talks about. It's about how to create a carbon light growth model for India, which can then serve as a beacon for a number of other countries on their own development path. In some ways, this is going to be unique because no other country has grown in this, in this carbon sort of light model that India is likely to be looking at over the next several years. So that's what I've tried to talk about, how
Sure.
this growth can happen, what are the constraints, and perhaps what kind of policy interventions might help
Sure.
us go down that path and really hasten the energy transition to a clean.
It's a great teaser, Sumant. I'm already interested in that book, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for all the clarity on your fundraising options. We'll definitely get back to you when you have more clarity on your future plans going forward. So thanks, Sumant, on that.
you.
And Suraj Krishnaswamy is waiting very patiently. We'll get back to him after a very short break on a Deal Street check on the renewable energy sector. Stay tuned.